Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the matrix labs, the video number 81. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We are still working with the GPO Zor report and discovering the different problems that we can encounter with the group policies. Now we have, or we will discuss today, something called duplicate group policy objects. Let's wait for a moment, guys. Or CNF objects or conflict objects. I think this is conflict objects or duplicate objects are created in Active Directory when there is simultaneous creation of AD object under the same container on two separate domain controllers near about the same time or before the replication occurs. This results in a conflict and the same is exhibited by a CNF duplicate object. While it doesn't necessarily have a huge impact on Active Directory, it is important to keep Active Directory in proper healthy state. As it states, currently there is 0 CNF duplicate group policy objects to be deleted. So, very simple. A duplicate object, this can be a group policy or any other Active Directory object. An object that is created at the same time or nearly the same time on two different domain controllers, or creating two objects at the same time but there is no replication happened, or you create an object on a domain controller and another IT create the same object of the same name on another domain controller but there is no replication, and when the replication happens, here we will encounter something called conflict objects or duplicate objects. Anyway, the Active Directory will not let something like that to happen. You should not have, or it will not accept to have two objects with the same name. It will rename one of them, okay, and it will give it a different name, so it will have a different name and a different even SID, a different thing. So every object in the Active Directory have a different SID and a different name. Okay, they will not have the same SID, of course, but they can have the same name. And if this happened, then we or the Active Directory will rename one of them, so or we name the newest one of them. Okay, he will see which one is created first. This will be the original object, and the duplicate object will be renamed in a certain way that it can be identified as a duplicate, and it after that you can delete it safely, or you can do whatever you like. And actually there is a script here we can see from the GPO Zor. There is a script to do that. So first you need to install the GPO Zor module, import it, then you prepare the report to make sure if you have any duplicates using this command to generate this report, and at the end you will run these commands. Okay, remove GPO Zor duplicate object, what if, we know what is what if, and verbose, and you can limit the process to two duplicate objects that should be removed. Okay, you see that limit process to prevent mass delete and increase the counter when no errors occur. So this is why we use limit process. And what if, to make sure before execution of the command you can see the output of the command before executing it, something like a simulation. Okay, and at the end you will have a verification. Run the report again to get a verification of the status of the Active Directory objects. As we see here, this don't have a huge impact, but if you have a large Active Directory environment, if this happens more often, okay, this will increase the database size and will make something like it will not be in the healthiest state. So we need just to remove it, just not to make any performance issues in the future. Even he's saying that it doesn't have a huge impact on Active Directory. Okay, so let's see how this scenario can apply by or can be encountered by asking the AI tools to explain this topic and give us examples. Here I tell him to explain this concept. I have already copied the text here and asked it Chat or Claude to explain it, but before that I have already imported the GPO-ZOR modules or commands and ask him to explain the topics that will come using these commands. Okay, so let's see here how he'll explain this. Explain CNF objects in Active Directory in a way that's easy to understand, especially for someone new to Active Directory administration. Think of Active Directory like a big phone book that's being maintained across multiple offices. Okay, domain controllers. Each office needs to have the exact same information, but they also need to be able to make changes independently. Here is a real world scenario. Imagine you have two offices, one in New York and one in London. Before or both locations have their own domain controller. At 9 a.m. EST, an admin in New York creates a new group policy called security setting to manage security policies. At the same time, 2 p.m. London time, an admin in London creates also a group policy object with the same or the exact same name in the same location in the Active Directory. Okay, so what happens next? Both domain controllers think they are creating an original object. When replication occurs, domain controllers sharing updates with each other. Active Directory detects that there are two objects with the same name, and instead of overwriting one, which can cause problems, AD keeps both but marks one of them as CNF object or a duplicate object by adding a special identifier to its name. Something like to add to its attribute uh, something to mark it as a duplicate objects. Okay, so let's see here. Looking at the tools provided in the documentation, which is GPO-ZOR, there are several commandlets that help to manage this situation. Get GP-ZOR duplicate object, which is currently the command get GPO-ZOR. Let me return back to the command get remove GPO-ZOR duplicate, and you can tell him get, so you can use both get GPO-ZOR duplicate object and then remove. Okay, so here you go, this is it. Common pitfalls to avoid: do not manually delete CNF objects without proper investigation. Use the appropriate tools, something like this script. Do not create important GPOs during network outage between sites. So if there is a domain and there is different sites and there is a problem between the connection between these sites, do not create objects until the link is returned back. So uh, if a replication happens, okay, or so they are all replicated, or if something like this happen, the replication can fix the problem. Do not do that when there is network outages, because simply if I have an outage between my New York site and London site, I can create any group policies I need with any names, and the same could happen to London. And by chance, or maybe in one situation, both create the same objects with the same name, and when the replication happens, this conflict happens. So do not create objects when there is the site links are broken. Make sure your sites and replication are properly configured to minimize the chance of conflicts. I don't know how this can be done, but one of the good best practices to coordinate GPO creation between different locations. There should be a change management, or should be a policy or a procedure. If any admin needs to create a GPO, he should submit it to, for example, the main office, for example, and or submit it in a forum. I need to create the GPO policy with this name, and the purpose of this policy is so and so and so, and then this can be approved by the main office IT, and then he can begin the creation of the group policies. Another thing, you can use a simple naming convention to make the group policies to be identified just from the name. So for example, if I am creating a group policy in New York, every group policy should have the initial of New York, NY. So this uh, can identify it as security setting for New York site. As for London, we can have LDN. So this will make the duplicate objects chance to be very weak. Okay, regular check for CNF object using GPO-ZOR duplicate. We have seen this command. Maintain good documentation of when and where GPOs are created. As we see, we can make a change management process or like procedure. When we create group policies, we need to inform the head office or to submit maybe a request or something to do that. Okay, To prevent these issues, consider implementing a change control process. This is what we are talking about, where GPO creation is coordinated through a central team or during designated maintenance windows. This helps avoid simultaneous creation of objects within the same name. Impact on your environment. While CNF object doesn't usually cause immediate problems, they can create confusion when managing GPOs, take up necessary space in Active Directory, the space in the Active Directory database, make troubleshooting more difficult, potentially cause unexpected behavior if linked incorrectly. Okay, so here the GPO Zor module helps you maintain a clean Active Directory environment by identifying and safely removing these duplicate objects, ensuring your GPO infrastructure remains healthy and manageable. Think of it like having two copies of the same book in slightly different places in a library. It's not breaking anything, but it's inefficient and potentially confusing for people trying to find the right book. Regular maintenance using these tools helps keep your AD library well organized and efficient. So this is the explanation of the duplicate objects. We have like an example. Here I'm telling him to provide an example to explain this topic, but through a dialogue between two ITs, the senior IT and a junior IT. We have seen this uh, kind of prompt and kind of explanation in the previous video. So here I'm telling him to do the same to explain the CNF object. So let me simulate this learning interaction between a junior and the senior IT administration focused on CNF duplicate objects in Active Directory. Let's start with CNF objects in Active Directory, the senior IT. Can you explain to me what you understand about CNF objects and how they occur in your own words? Okay, from what I understand, CNF objects happen when two domain controllers try to create the same thing at the same time. Like if someone in one office makes a GPO and someone else makes one with the same name before they can talk to each other. I am a bit fuzzy on the details though. Just a moment. So here he is telling him, yes, that's a good start. Let me help you visualize this with a specific scenario. The New York office and the London scenario. New York, DC, we have DC New York 01, C, the naming convention. London office DC Lon 01. Let's say at 9 a.m. EST, both offices have a task to create a new GPO for printer setting. New York admin creates printer setting on DC New York 1. London admin creates printer setting on DC Lon 1 at exactly the same time. Based on this scenario, can you walk me through what you think happens next? Okay, so both domain controllers have a GPO called printer setting, but when they try to replicate, there would be a conflict because they can't both exist with the same name. Is that when one becomes a CNF object? Excellent. Let me expand that looking at our GPO Zor documentation. We have tools to help manage this. This get GPO Zor duplicates. Remove the duplicates. Can you think of ways to prevent those conflicts from happening in the first place? Maybe we could create a naming convention. This was listed before, like New York printer setting and London printer setting, or should we coordinate better when creating GPOs? Okay, this was said in the previous answer. Excellent suggestion. Let's practice with a real-world scenario. You have just joined our IT team and discovered there are several CNF objects in our environment. Can you outline the steps you would take to identify the CNF objects, determine if they are safe to remove, clean them up? So let's see the order of doing these things. Identify, then try to see if it is safely to remove the duplicate object. But by the way, maybe the London team, if you try to remove their object, their duplicate object, maybe it is already linked and applied to certain users. So you need to be careful when deleting the duplicate object. First, you need to inform the London team to create a new GPO with the same setting but with different name, okay, and then apply it to the OU that they need and then delete or unlink the old one and delete it. So this can be a good approach. Let's see what will be the answer of the junior and then of the senior, okay? Alright, let me try outline how I would handle those CNF objects. First, to identify CNF object, I would use the get GPUs or duplicate object commandlet to find any duplicate GPOs in our environment, save the results so I can analyze them and document what I found, creating a report. Try to understand when these duplicates were created by looking at their timestamp. Okay, for determining if they are safe to remove, I would check with which GPO is the original and which is the duplicate. Look at any GPO links to make sure we wouldn't break anything. So we need to make sure that the original and the duplicate GPOs are not linked, or they are linked to some OUs you need to take care before deleting them or before removing them. Maybe create a test environment. I'm not entirely confident about deleting things in production. Okay. Uh, for cleanup, I would identify to make a backup. Okay, so this is always a good step to make backup before deleting. Then use the remove GPOs or duplicate object, but what if switch first to see what would happen. Very organized steps to do. Maybe do this during maintenance hours, so also you can do this during the maintenance hour after the employees have left the company, or during the off hours, or during the or through a maintenance window or something, or after they leave the office. Okay, during the non-working hours. If this approach is too cautious, I'm especially nervous about accidentally removing the wrong GPO. That's actually a very thoughtful and careful approach. Your caution is a good instinct when dealing with Active Directory changes. Let me reinforce some points and add some additional guidance. Here, there's your plan of backup is excellent. Let me show you specific commands you would use. Here is the backup. You need to backup. You create a folder, or you have already created a folder, because here this is not listed here. You create a folder named backup, and it will be create a folder by the timestamp, or folder that have the time created the folder on it. It will be its name. Then we will backup. Okay, and we will have the backup also with the name, or the backup file will be named according to the timestamp. Okay, then check for duplicates. Okay, here is the duplicate. You can get it in a format table. Okay, to be displayed in front of you, or you can export it HTML file using another command. Okay, then we remove the duplicate. Okay, but this should be by coordination with the London team, and to make sure the duplicate GPO is created, a newly created one, before removing the duplicate, and then unlink it and then remove it. So you mentioned testing. That's great. Here's how we can make this even safer. Document all duplicate GPO finds. Okay, this is a good thing to know the content of the duplicate GPOs. Verify the original GPO functionality. Check GPOs or reports for any linked reference to make sure that the original and duplicate GPOs are not linked, or if they are linked, you need to make sure it will not affect any users. Okay, schedule the cleanup during a change window. Have a roll back plan ready. Would you like to try running those steps in our lab environment first? Okay, yes, it would be really helpful, but I have a question. How do I know for sure when GPO is what is the original one and what is the duplicate one? If there is a safe way or specific way to identify them in the output, I think we can uh, see maybe the timestamp, but here there is another way. Great question. Identify original versus CNF duplicates in Active Directory. CNF object have a special identifier. You can know them from the name of the object itself. In distinguish, let me show you. Original GPO will look like that. CN, so on. So it will look like that. As for the duplicate object, you will have 0A CNF. This means it is a duplicate object. How you can see this? You can see these two from the PowerShell to get them, or through ADSEI tool, a tool in Active Directory that you can open it to see the Active Directory database and the objects in the Active Directory database. See that 0A CNF part, that's your telltale sign. In GPOs, or when you run get GPOs or duplicate object, it makes this distinction clear in the output. want to try also, it will display that using GPOzor commandlet, so you can know who is the duplicate one from the real one by this sign. Okay, so here, oh, that helps a lot. So that's unique identifier is automatically added by the Active Directory during replication. In the lab, I would like to try something. Could we deliberately create a CNF object to see how it happens and then clean it up? So we need to simulate this situation in a test environment. Would that be safe to try? Okay, you can do this by just making two domain controllers, stop the replication, create two objects with the same name, and return the replication back to see how this will happen. That's an excellent learning opportunity. Yes, we can simulate this safely in our lab. Let me guide you through setting a control set. First, let's break replication between our lab DCs temporarily, create identical GPOs on both DCs, re-enable replication, watch what happens, use GPOzor to manage the results. Would you like to try this exercise? Yes, please. But before we start, a quick question about replication. If we break replication to create our CNF object, what happens to the other ED changes during that time? Should we be worried about other conflicts happening while we do our test? I want to make sure we don't accidentally cause problems. So this is also another good question. Let's see the answer of senior IT. That's a fantastic question about replication risk. It shows that you are thinking about the broader system impact, which is exactly the mindset a good AD or Active Directory administrator needs. Let me explain how we can do this safely. In our lab here we'll take these precautions. First, we will run rep admin show repl. This will verify our current replication status. Then document current replication status, get replication connection, server, lab DC, so and so. And we can see here table format, name from server, replicate from directory server. So I think this is the first domain controller to see the replication status. There is two, so you need to see the replication of the primary, I think, domain controller. Then here we will disable the outbound replication between the two domain controllers, and we will see the queue. Here, after we stop the replication, every changes will be in a queue, and then when the replication is enabled, this queue uh, uh, will be executed. During our test window, normal AD operations will continue on each DC independently. Changes will put in the queue up, but not replicate. Think of it like two people making separate to-do list that they will merge later. The key is keeping the test window short. Let's say 15 minutes max. This is also a good thing because I think the replication window, I think every 15 minutes. So we don't need to stop the replication for a lot of time. Okay. Want to see what our replication queue looks like right now before we start? Yes, that would be helpful. And I understand that to-do list analogy, like if two people are reading tasks independently, they will need to merge their lists carefully later. But I'm curious, when we re-enable replication, wouldn't all those queue changes potentially create more CNF objects? How do we manage this risk? Another excellent question. Let me show you how we'll monitor and manage the replication queue. Before our test, check current replication backlog. Okay, so we'll see the logs if there is any replications before returning back, I think, the replication, and then we will get GPOzor objects and see the replication during the test. Monitor queue growth. After test, control replication resume. So here he will check in the queue if there is any duplicate objects, but I think this is on one domain controller maybe, or on both okay, no, he will not do that on both domain controllers. So I don't think, let's see how this will go, okay? And then he will resume the replication. So after that, we need to run the report to see if there is any uh, duplicate objects. Remember, normal AD application has built-in conflict resolution for most objects. Okay, so we don't need to worry about this. GPOs are special because they exist in both AD and Sysbol. want to try running these commands to see our current state. That makes sense. So GPOs are more complex because they are in two places before we run these commands. Should we document our current state at first? Maybe export a list of all current GPOs so we can compare after. Would like that be an overkill, or it's a good practice? It's a good practice also to document all of our group policies. That's an excellent thinking about documentation. It's never overkill. It's a best practice that we can save us something in case something unexpected happens. Let me show you how we can document our we can document our environment comprehensively. So this is the baseline. Get GPOs, or I think this will be the current GPOs, and then export the uh, the I think the configuration. This is the get GPUs, or I think these are the count and where they are linked to, and this is the configuration itself. Then we create a backup. So you have three things before doing anything. This is our documentation. This gives us three layers of document: a simple CSV list of GPOs, detailed GPO setting, export for recoverable backups. This is a good thing to do. Ready to proceed with our test now that we have this safely net? Yes. That helps me feel more confident. I see how each layer serves a different purpose. The CSV for quick comparison between after the replication and removing the duplicates, and before and after. The exports for detailed review, and the backups for recovery if needed. Can we do a quick check of the backup files to make sure they are good before we start? I have learned from experience it's better to verify backups. This is also one good best practice, to verify the backup. Okay, so outstanding instinct about backup verification. This is exactly the kind of thinking that prevents disasters. Let's verify our backups. So we have this command to get the backup, get information about the backups. Okay, let's also do a test restore one GPOs to our lab OU to verify backup integrity. You can create a test OU and restore uh, uh, restore this GPO to the test OU, or no, to the test OU, and link it maybe. So you will return it to the group policy management console, and then link it to a test OU to see if it will be applied correctly. Would you like to walk through doing this verification process? Then we can proceed with creating our controlled CNF scenario. Once we are confident in our backups, that sounds good. But I notice the restore command has what if. Should we try a real test restore to a test OU first? This is what we should do. Maybe we could create a temporary test GPO, back it up, delete it, and then restore it. Okay, so he's trying to uh, make or try to be very cautious before going to the duplicate object scenario. Maybe create a backup, restore the backup. If the CNF object scenario is not working successfully, or if any problems happened, so he need to make a test to restore it to make sure the whole process works. Is that too cautious, or would be a good practice? It should be a good practice. Okay, so this is excellent thinking about testing our backup and restore process, far from being too cautious. This is exactly the kind of methodological approach that distinguishes great system administrators. So here we can see that the dialogue is going not only to solve a situation concerning duplicate objects, but how, from a real world perspective, we should uh, uh, deal, or how we should have a methodology to deal with problems in our environment. So here, this is a very, very cautious approach. We can see that IT is very, very cautious. He will not do any step unless he have a backup plan. He need to have everything documented. He need to have, or to verify the backups are working. So all of these will not be said through a typical answer. Here we can see the power of the AI tools. It will give you, or every prompt will give you a completely different answer. Okay, so the first answer was very, very theoretical. Okay, it gives us a simple scenario, but this is more dynamic. It contains a lot of useful advices and best practice and how we can deal with a situation like this. This is almost very close to the real case, okay, that will happen in your environment. And this is how you should act as an IT administrator or Active Directory administrator. You should be very, very careful. You should have backup. You should have documentation. You should have a list of all the GPOs, all of things. These things should be taken into consideration, okay? This is an excellent thinking about testing our backup and restore process. Far from being too cautious, this is exactly the kind of methodological approach that distinguishes the great system administrators. Let's create a complete test cycle. This is how you can create a GPO using using PowerShell. This is the name of the group policy, the description, and we can put the date. This is an OU, and then we back up this test GPO test backup. We will back it up, okay, and then we will verify the backup information using this command. All of these to create GPO and back it up before deleting it. But here I think he didn't link it, so I think the next step is to link it, okay, but he didn't link it actually, so he just already created it and copy and back it up, and then he will remove the GPO, okay. He is not linking it to anything, okay, so it should link it, okay, and then he can use the remove GPO to remove the link and the GPO, or he can unlink it and then remove the GPO, okay. Restore the GPO with a new name to avoid conflicts, okay. So here he will return it back with something called not the same name, not to make conflict, restore test GPO. So this is a good thing to verify our backup is working, okay. Let's walk through each step and I will explain what's happening. Would you like to execute these commands one at a time and discuss what each one does? Yes, please. I have a question about the test OU structure though. Should we also create some test users and computers? Okay, so this is should be, because an M2U will not be. We need to verify the settings so we can restore the GPO, link it, but the configuration, maybe it is corrupted or something and the GPO is not applied correctly. Okay, so we need to test it on some users and computers. What should we look for to confirm the restore worked properly beside just GPO existing again? So this is the question. Fantastic question about validation. Yes, let's create a complete test environment. Here is how we can expand our testing. This is the OU. We'll create a test user and we will have a password, okay, and then we'll create a computer. We will link it to the restored GPO. So we have we will create test user in our or create a OU and create users and computers and link the restored GPO that we have recovered from the backup to this test OU and see the result on the user and the computer, okay. Get GPUs or the see here that this is the link, verify GPO links to make sure it is already linked to the correct OU, and then format table, and then we need to see the results, okay. Test this on the test user, okay. Here you see this is get GP result on the user and verbose. So to see generate a report, okay, on the user that on the user in this OU that this group policy will be applied to. Would you like to add any additional test scenarios to verify the GPO functionality? Yes. Maybe we could add a simple setting to the original GPO before backing up. Maybe something easy to verify like a map drive or desktop shortcut. That way we can check if all of the settings came back exactly as they were. Also, should we test both computer and user settings and GPO have both? So it became a little bit complicated, but he is also verifying. You need to add a simple setting to the GPO. Just when he restore it back, he knows that this is the original GPO. Okay, that's just to make sure this is the original one, not another thing. Okay, anyway, so we can go further with the scenario. Absolutely, this is a great thing about comprehensive testing. Let's create a test GPO with both users and computer setting that we can easily verify. We will walk you through it step by step. This is the thing to create the GPO, backup GPO. We will create a mapping network drive map using PowerShell. Configure computer setting. Here we have something like registry key. Create simple registry key. We verify. Okay, so just to apply a certain registry key on the computer and a network map drive on the user. Then we will back it up. Okay, back this group policy, and then verify the current setting. We will get a report to get these two settings listed. Then we will remove the GPO. Then we will restore it with a different name, and then we will compare with the restored GPO setting and the original one to see if they are the same. Okay, then we will force the group policy. Okay, now let's verify our test case step by step. For user setting, login as test1, check for map drive, document result. For computing, check registry on test PC1 after group policy update, review event logs for policy application, document any issues. Okay, would you like to walk through testing each of these aspects? Yes, it's really helpful. I see we are testing both sides of GPO functionality, but I have a question. What if one part works but the other doesn't? Like if the user setting restored correctly but the computer setting is not. So this is becoming interesting. He's putting all of the possibilities when you restore a group policy. Maybe something is working or a part is working and the part is not. So how we can know that the group policy is fully restored and fully functional? How would you troubleshoot that? And should we be checking the GPO modeling or resultant set of policies? Okay, so excellent question. You are thinking like experienced admin now. Let's add those verification steps. So after restoring and applying the group policy, it will get a result, or we get GP resultant policy using the user and PC, and we will see the HTML file on both group policies applied or not. Check each setting types separately. So open GP editing, or so this you will open the group policy itself and see the setting or editing it. Verify user setting, get GPO user configuration, GPO so right hosts, user status scan. Okay, I think this is uh, like uh, let's see, it's like a PowerShell script to verify the user setting. Here he will list it, or what he will do, user setting status, uh, okay, and verify the same. What this should do, it will give us it is enabled or disabled maybe. Let me try to see something here. I will copy this and I will do something here. I'll try to go to ChatGPT and ask it to explain this script in detail. It seems to be easy, but I need to know what it will do exactly. Okay, here we go and try to see what will be the answer. So here, let's break it down and thoroughly explain so and so. Script designed to verify and display both users and computer setting of a specific group policy. Understanding each component will help you grasp its functions. Okay, so let's see here what will be the answer. Breakdown. Verify user setting, computer setting, purpose. If you have something, this is a good thing. If you put any line in the PowerShell script and before it a hash, that means that this is a comment. Okay, it will not be executed. Okay, this is not a command, this is a comment to explain the command or the underlying comments. Okay, retrieving user setting, this user setting and this commandlet. User setting is a variable that will store the user related configuration setting of the GPO, so it will get the information displayed by this command and put it in a box. Let's make it that way. Okay, and then this commandlet is used to retrieve the user configuration part of GPO. It fetches setting that apply to the user accounts such as software setting, folder redirection, and login script. Let's see here what does it do. As of my knowledge cutoff in September 2021, get GPO user configuration is not a standard PowerShell commandlets provided by Microsoft. It might be a custom part of a third-party module. Get GPO configuration. I think maybe this is something related to GPO the GPO commandlets. If you try to see if there is maybe this command in the get GPO, what does it say? It gets GPO okay, I think okay, this commandlets is not. So here you say maybe the cutoff. Let me go here. This is get GPO configuration. Try to see ask Copilot. So he's saying this is not a verified commandlet. Let's see if this can be a command or it is something. Okay, get GPO is used to retrieve the user configuration part. It's not standard PowerShell commandlets by Microsoft. Okay, how we can do that or how we can know that? So this is not a verified commandlet. So this can be this is not a correct one. So we need to know the right one. Okay, let me give me the right. So this can happen, guys, because sometimes it hallucinates the AI. So give me the right commandlet to do what to do so. Okay, so you can get GPO report. So this is to get it as a whole. Okay, so this can be a little bit different. If you can go and copy and see, maybe it is we search through the internet and see maybe it is there. I think no, it doesn't contain something like that. So we don't have something like this. Okay, this is a hallucination. Okay, if you don't have something like this. Okay, so and if you continue with the answer, this will here is the GPO ID, specify the unique identifier of the GPO, so he will get the user configuration of the GPO but using the SID or the GUID of the GPO. Okay, and after we continue, the script calls configuration, so on. So I think okay, so here this is a customized one. Yes, what he will do, he will, but this is not a verified one. Okay, so if you open if this commandlet, let's see if we copy that and ask Pilot to see this one. Okay, anyway, I think there is a little bit of hallucination here. Anyway, so if you go and continue the explanation of this one, here, right host, let's see, the commandlet displays the commandlet outputs text directly to the console. It's primarily used for displaying information to the user. User said string is displayed. It serves as a heading or label indicating the following information patterns to the user. Okay, and I think it doesn't give us much information concerning the output or what does it do exactly. Okay, retrieve configuration, and again uh, okay, so I think maybe this is script. Okay, let me tell him to correct the script. So let's see what will be the answer. So if we go further and see the script, so this is a long one, corrected script. So we can see here he is importing group policy commandlets, then define the GPO to inspect. Okay, get your GPO name, and then attempt to retrieve the GPO object by the name. Write GPO not found, so he's searching the GPO with the name. Display the GPO being inspected. Okay, so uh, giving uh, the name of the GPO, the GUID of the GPO, the status, and what after that? He'll try function to extract user configuration setting from GPO report. This is like a function to generate XML file, and what will happen? So he will try to extract the user configuration from XML file, or he will export it, generate XL report from the GPO. He will export it as XML file. Okay, load the report. Okay, navigate to the configuration. Okay, so he will do it in two steps. He will get the configuration, export it to XML, and then he will take the data from the XML file and return it or display it to you on the screen. I think this could be, I will see the explanation. Function to extract computer configuration, the same, I think same concept will be done. Okay, and retrieve user configuration. So he will take the XML data and put it in a table, and do the same for the computer. Detailed explanation, he will explain each step. Okay, retrieving the object, we all this displaying info. Okay, here we can, here we will do function get user configuration setting, and this is a custom one. Let's see what he will do there. This function generate an XML report of the GPO and phrase it to extract users and computer configuration. So this is what I was talking about. He will get XML files, one XML file with the user and computer configuration, and take a part that is related to user configuration displayed on the screen, and the other computer part displayed on the screen. So here you go, we will go and extract, display, retrieve and display user setting. This was what I was talking about. And the computer configuration. Okay, so good explanation, and this can be a sample output. Good one, by the way. Exist have both user tree. We can see that this is an example of the output. Okay, so this can be a good thing. If there is no, it will give you an error, no user setting found or failed to retrieve, no computer setting failed and retrieved. So a good example of maybe sometime we can get some errors from Claude, even though the explanation or the coding with Claude is good, but sometimes because actually this was not fed up, I didn't give him this commands. I only give him the GPO ZOR command. So I think here's some maybe some commandlets are not that good. Okay, would you like to learn about something common troubleshooting scenarios and how to handle them? For instance, what to do if sysvor replication isn't matching with AD replication. We have done this before. We will not continue working with this. So here we have hands-on exercise. I think we don't need hands-on exercise. We have done this before. We have a lot. All of this we have already seen before. Uh, I think we don't have to do or to go further in the exercises because we have already done this, or we have already do this thing. Maybe something like creating a script to check for the duplicate objects, but here he also didn't put the SMTP to send an email to the admin, and he will put it in a schedule task. Anyway, so we can see here that this is very good example. I am completely sure most of the commands are correct because I have seen already the GPOzor help reference. They are very good. Okay, so I can completely sure that most of the scripts are good, and if there is any problem you can take it and correct it just by asking Claude again to correct the script. In most of my trials with Claude, the scripting is good, by the way. Small things are is not that correct. As we can see here, I have already give ChatGPT 01 the script, and he has already uh, changed it. And by the way, he's saying that his knowledge is to 2021. Maybe there is other uh, commandlets or this is there, but I asked Claude, asked Copilot, which is attached to the internet, so he's saying that these commandlets are not there. Anyway, so we can see that we can get the most out of the AI tools. We have seen a very useful scenario between two ITs, how we can handle the CNF situation. Okay, so I think we have already or we are going 1 hour, but let's try to see another subject maybe, or we can stop at it. Here is the group policy organizational units. Okay, so here we have I think we can stop at this discuss it in the upcoming video. So we have group policy organizational units. We will stop at that topic and discuss it in the upcoming video. Hope this video informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.